As humans, we are complex beings. We are multi-layered, we are multifaceted. We are bringing parts of ourselves to every single experience we have. And sometimes, well, probably not sometimes, all the time, there is a part of us who's taking the lead, right? There's a part of us who is kind of steering the ship. All of our parts are there all the time. It's just that sometimes a certain part of us takes over. So that could be anything from the scared part of us to the 17-year-old girl who was in the waiting room while blah 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 was happening. So it could be like a part of yourself from your timeline, or it could be a part of yourself from your growth and development, or it could be a part of yourself from your personality, from your characteristics, from your qualities. But if we think about showing up to anything in our life, and that there's a part of us that's in leadership. Another way I've described this and had described to me is like, there's a part that's driving the bus, there's a part that's driving the car. And so my mentor used to say, like, fear is going to be there. Don't let it drive the car, put it in the back seat, right? Put fear in the back seat and then keep driving. So that's another way to think about it. But there's a part of you in any given experience that is taking a leadership role. And I was just on with a client, and we were reflecting back to a recent memory she had. And I know a lot of you have this with your abortions. When you look back, it's like you're watching a movie, and you can't even really identify with what was happening at the time, and like maybe it was happening fast or chaotic, or like it just feels like there's a disconnect in your head, and there was a part of you running the show that maybe isn't creating a memory for you, isn't creating um an experience for you now that's useful. So let's say you chose one of your abortions, you were in a very tumultuous time in your relationship, and the part of you that was angry and scared and maybe like, what's that word I'm looking for? Like you wanted to prove something, or you wanted to just like, I don't know, whatever it is. Like there's a part of you in your abortion experience that kind of took over and was running the show, and it was acting from places like anger or disbelief or regret or I'm sorry, resentment or um fear. And that part of you kind of took over at that point in your experience. And so now when you think back to abortion, you think back to that part of you, but all of you was there. All of you was there. And so I was just on with a client, and I sort of had this thought. It's like, I don't know how old you all are, but I was a kid when Transformers came out, and like it's like it could be a car, and then it just like transforms into this creature, right? Or anything. I think my kids had some version of Transformers that was different. It was like an animal to a doll or something. Think of yourself in that way, like you're like a transformer, and like you're changing in a moment, and the part of you that has fear or anger might like kind of transform and create that shape. But somewhere in there is also the part of you that was acting or had like an immense amount of love and compassion and curiosity. There was a different version of you inside yourself that wasn't running the show. So if you're looking back at your abortion experiences, and there's a charge, there's an energy around them that doesn't feel good. Remember that all of you was there. And you can change that memory in your brain, literally change that association in your brain by going back and visualizing, remembering that moment, but allowing a different part of you to transform and step into leadership. If I had let that part of me lead, say instead of anger and fear, I had let that part of me lead that was present and curious, maybe I would have breathed differently. I would have held my body differently. I would have held my partner's hand differently. I would have walked away from the situation differently. I would have stayed in the situation differently. And I would have been thinking and feeling these things instead. You can't go back and change that situation, but you can go back and change your relationship to the memory in your brain. So you can go back and let that part of you transform and influence your relationship to the memory. Because how you're behaving in your life now, as someone who beats herself up or doubts herself or lets other people decide or people pleases or any of the things that are you're doing, you can go back and let a different part of you emerge from that memory and let that different part of you influence how you're behaving moving forward, right? When you're looking back at a memory and you're thinking like it's his fault, every behavior in your life now is influenced by that belief that it's his fault. Maybe sometimes it was his fault. I don't know. I'm just using it as an example. And then when you have a memory or an experience that's like, I was an active participant in that and had the part of me who felt like she had a voice spoken up, our future would be different. If you let that part of you that had a voice and speaks up back into that memory, you will start showing up in the rest of your life moving forward in a different way. So play with this. This is, you see me pausing and hesitating a lot when I create these videos. It's because there's a certain challenge in like explaining these things when you're not really in it, when you're not with a client, when you're not walking through it, someone's very specific situation and navigating this work. So I create this content because I think there's so many of you who can benefit from it, but there's only one of me. So I can't one-on-one coach with all of you. But if you want my help walking through this in your specific situation, your actual lived experience, your actual real relationship to that memory, like, let's work together, let's work through it, and let's change that relationship you have to the experience in a way that lets you live the life you made your choices for, in a way that lets you thrive moving forward, in a way that lets you be someone who learned and grew and expanded because of what you've been through. I'm available for one-to-one coaching. Please reach out if it helps. Take whatever pieces of this work for you. If we're not going to work together one-on-one, take what works for you and play with it, explore it, try it on, and see where you find yourself.